Let some fragments of silicon be your umbrella.
Welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Daylight interview. Right, so apologies for any scheduling issues that we've been having, but I think they've been all sorted out. Or that is to say, Petty's dentist appointment is on December 1st. Anyway, joining us today is Dan Bernardino of Playtra Games. Or, sorry, is it Bernardo?
Yeah, it's Bernardo, but
sorry,
don't worry, it's hard for everyone.
Okay. Anyway, right. So how we like to get started is we like to get to know the people behind the game, the studio, and all that business. And we do this by asking this question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Well, I've been playing video games since I can remember, man. I come from Brazil, so we had, back in the day, not a lot of choice and access to video games. So I would play whatever, landed in my hands. I end up going, very different path. I end up going to anthropology school, go figure. And then I started doing creative work, mostly in design or graphic design. And then a few years ago, I said, I have to give a try. I have to follow my childhood dream of creating games. So the dream of creating games has been there since I can remember, but the opportunity just happens to me maybe 3 years ago.
Okay. And I suppose the question that beckons here is, what exactly was the opportunity that made you go into video games?
So there is a weird story, because normally when you see indie developers, their stories like, I finished uni and then I got my friends and we went create the game we wanted to create. With me, as I already had a career in tech, I was at a kind of C-level executive working in technology companies, and I was ready to retire. I'm 40 plus already. And when my company was sold, I have two options. I go back to Brazil, buy a nice house, and then just, drink coconut water, or burn everything in a game studio and try to follow this dream. So the opportunity for me was, okay, I got this little money in my hands. What's the best use of it? And I thought, I have a few ideas for games, and I know we can add our voice to it. We can create things that I would love to play and I cannot find. And that was, a self-made opportunity. And I have to find the people with the same kind of, vision to come in and work with me. So for me, it was more, can I make this my dream, but also a business? And the answer was yes. So I started doing it.
Okay. And is Playtra Games your first experience in the video game industry? Is this your first, attempt at making a game with Grid Force here?
Grid Force is the first big game that we are creating. We spent a year and a half just creating little prototypes and mobile games. I don't know if I can swear in this, but it comes to my head. Some little weird games that we created and we put out there, because what I want is to create a team that enjoy doing things together. So our first year and a half was just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. And a year and a half ago, we really like this game mechanic. We really like this universe. We are all fans of tactical games. Some of us love like bullet hell games, and we thought the idea would like land well for a console and PC game. And then we start creating it, but it was just after a lot of back and forth and creating different stuff. As long as it was weird and nobody ever played something similar, we would like be trying. And this one's like, okay, this one can be a big game.
Okay. And I suppose before we get into the depths of Grid Force, I should ask a bit more about your team. Like, how big is it? And what are the various staffing positions?
Yeah, so we have 9 now. So it's in as far as little indie studios go, we are quite sizable. Um, I cannot help but getting my background interfering with my company philosophy and motto and mission. So we try to get as diverse group of people as possible. I like to get people who normally don't, because basically I am outsider in the game industry. So I feel like I would like to give the chance to all the outsiders as well. So you have to be very talented at Playtra to be working at Playtra. So show that you can do the stuff that you have to do. But the more diverse and different your background is, the better for us. So the team, everything we do is in-house. So we don't, outsource anything. And everybody from these 9 people, they have more than one function. So the guy who do marketing is the guy who do music. I do UI and level design and game design and business. And then somebody else do coffee and something else. But we are trying to do much more than you would probably do with 9 people.
I mean, it's not that surprising given our 9 people. Like, that is perhaps big for a small indie dev, but it's still not that big overall for a game developer.
No.
We've certainly spoken to people who have had more on their team, and we've spoken to less. But it's something that's game development's still not an easy thing. Like,
geez, it's probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life, dude. And I did some crazy stuff. It's definitely really hard.
I mean, what other crazy things have you done?
I was working in basically creating tools for high tech. So I would be in the intersection between the dev teams and the creative people, trying to make, can this crazy idea become a product? Can this crazy idea become something the marketing can marketing around and can sell? So from running with my underwear in New York for a stunt to creating a water party in the top of a building, I used to create some like crazy stuff in my work. But they're all, first of all, it's a different scale. I used to work in bigger companies with bigger teams and bigger budgets. But also, game development is something that I've learned the hard way, that whatever work you have to do is just probably 30% of it, and the rest is hidden work that you don't know you have to do. And then you do stuff that just doesn't work, and you have to do it again. So in terms of like work that you put on it and brain power and energy, I think I wasn't a much easier ride in my previous life.
Yep. Somehow I'm not surprised. We get a lot of game dev is hard actually stories on the program. Right. Anyway, so getting into the game Grid Force, Mask of the Goddess. As far as the first question is, what is this game? Who are the Grid Force? What is the Mask of the Goddess, and so on and so forth?
So I used to write short stories back in the day, and I am a huge fan of top table, pen and paper RPGs. Narrative is quite important to me. And when we thought, okay, let's create a game. There's a tactical game, and I was like, okay, that it needs to have a like huge story, lots of options and different endings, all things that I love in normally, JRPGs, but better. And my team was very concerned about it because the technical part, the mechanics of the game are already really hard to do, and on top of this, you have like an expensive story. But in the end, everybody, bought into the idea. And I come from a huge family, lots of sisters, and I really want to create something that speaks of the female experience. Obviously, I'm not female, so the first thing I have to do is to bring females to the team so they could tell a story authentically. But basically, in a nutshell, Great Force is a story of this champion called Donna and her mission to save, to protect her goddess, who is Claire, and save this world that reboots like a broken software every few days. So she have to find out what the behind this all six, seven goddesses they're fighting for this world, and try to stop the world to from rebooting. This is the story. And then during the story, she's gonna fight, and collect more than 30 different characters. So imagine something like Sukuden that you go around and you fight or people, and if you make the right decisions or if you gain their trust, they join your team and then you become a new unit. And then you make the decisions they're gonna impact the end of the game. In terms of one like second to second gameplay is a kind of homage to games like Mega Man Battle Network. So it's in a grid, and I just like love Mega Man Battle Network when I was younger, and I really want to do something, but I didn't want to just like copy Mega Man Battle Network, and we started creating something that would be a bit more dynamic and fast paced. We still with the tactical options. One of the things that is very different from Mega Man Battle Network is that you control four characters at the same time, and you just like switch between them on the go. And the game is much faster. So a few people trying to describe what the game is, they call a tactical bullet hell, and I think makes sense. But if you ask me to put them in a genre, it's a bit hard because I never saw a game that plays the same way. But yeah, I think tactical bullet hell is good enough.
I guess it would work that way well enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key things that's sticking out to me in difference to the Mega Man Battle Network games is this is a fully real-time game from what I can see here. Mega Man Battle Network was, had some of that, but you also had, the turn where you had to pick out your chips.
Yeah, it was real time, but you got to pause every 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Or no, wait, 10 seconds or so.
Yeah. And I'm wondering what exactly made you go towards full real time, especially given that you like tactical games, which are, usually turn-based.
Yeah. So I love turn-based games, but I like games with a twist. So I used to play like Ogre Barrel and Tactical Ogre since like I can remember as well, but I always thought that it was very linear. And when you start creating Great Force, we love the real-time part, but we used to have a pause. We used to have a pause for you to like change weapons. And every time I had a pause, the fluidity of the gameplay would stop because the characters go very quick and they are very agile and they shoot real time like a third person shooter. And every time you stop, like you have this, why am I stopping? It feels like it breaks the flow of the game. And we start testing with not with a break and without a break, with a break, with a pause. I always felt like I'm doing a copy of Better at Work. I want to do something. I want to do the next thing. So a point we like, we are having fun with this, no stopping. And you already have quite a lot of options because in the game you have each of the characters are like three um, skills. And on top of this, they have the masks, the masks of power. When you defeat one of the goddesses, you can equip the mask in one of the characters. And depending who you equip, they change completely. The elemental and everything. So we already thought that with four characters and three skills for each one of them, plus masks, you already have a huge arsenal of things on your hands. You don't have to stop anymore. So we made the decision to make this real time.
Okay. And how does the four character dynamic work?
So basically, you have four different classes in the game. So each one of the characters is part of one's classes, and you have six different elements. It can be quite complex. So the four classes: Spellbinder, Valiant, Champion, and Defender, and they follow the normal, tank, damage dealer, healer, um, and I think
DPS?
DPS, and I think the champion is a bit more like a balanced one. And depending of your element, you also have affinities changes. So you're gonna get you probably start the game with four characters, but then you start collecting more and more characters, and then you have to see create your team based on your preferences and also what kind of enemies you're going to face in the next stage. And of course, in the beginning, it's almost like Mega Man, the classic. You have to try and and get kicked out, and you're like, okay, maybe this character is better. And then during the fight, you just use L and R anytime. In a card, when you do L or R, the character that is in the grid goes away, and the next one comes in. So you can basically use the magic to stop a character with one enemy with a character, quickly switch with somebody else, and then do a kind of devastating blow. So it depends of how you want to use these characters in combat. So what we want to make sure is it's almost like a card game because each one of the characters is a card in it specifically, but a bit more than that, and how you combine these four cards in your gameplay.
That sounds like the kind of system that will allow for a lot of versatility.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And also on top of this, I told you we have six elements. Each one of the six attributes of each character is connected to one of those elements. So you can actually just evolve one part of, I want my character to be just strong. And you get lots of fire elements, and you just dump lots of fire, what we call sigils that you get from the enemies. And you just, on top of doing all the customization of the characters that you want in your party, you can also customize one by one in the attribute level. So we wanted something complex. We want something that people can dig in and optimize as much as they can. We want the completionists to look for all characters in the game, which is impossible to collect all of them in just one run. And actually, even if you play the game, you're probably gonna just follow the story. You're probably gonna get a third of the characters. You have to go try to find all the different, secrets that we put in the game, and try to collect them. So we want people to spend quite a lot of time playing this game.
Okay, that does make sense, and certainly not out of the ordinary in terms of what RPG and tactical games would do. New Game Plus, and is it will this have a New Game Plus mode, or Is there a way you? Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, like a way to like unlock all of the characters in, say, one run.
So you can unlock all of them in one run, but you have the Game Plus, which you keep all characters that you already had. So if you make a decision in the game that takes you to a route that makes you lose one of the characters, you can make a different decision and then pick up this character later. There are a few secrets in the game where there are different versions of the same character, and your decisions will say which version you can get, like alternative universes. So you can actually go get one alternative part of, one character, let's say Pike, and then you go back and play again, and then you pick the other one, and then you have your full set.
And how long will it take a person to complete the game on average?
So we are now clocking on a 9 hours campaign. It's very hard for us to actually put the number because we as developers, we are much faster than the average person playing. But we take around 8 to 9 hours to finish what we did, and we are kind of close of completion. If you want to collect everybody, it's probably going to be around 25 to 30 hours. And if you want to maximize everyone, there's going to be a few hundred hours for sure.
Okay. And what is the current state of the game? Like, how far along is it in development, and how close is it to release?
So the story of the release of Grid Force is funny because we pushed back once the development. I feel honestly very uncomfortable with pushing back launch, maybe because of my previous life. And in tech is not a good thing that you just like keep pushing things back. But was a good reason why we did this. We want to add some things to the game. So now the game is we are April launch. Yeah, we have 6 months to completion of the game. And we try to do this all without publishers. We want to, do this independently. Also because the game the funny thing about the game is that the people who play the game is like, oh, this reminds me that, or I never played something like this, or this reminds something else. Lots of people who actually play the games like, really, Mega Man Battle at Work? I don't get it. But for publishers, in the beginning we tried to get a publisher. The publisher like, how am I going to market this thing? Because it's not a roguelike, it's not this, it's not that. Publishers love to label and get the same thing that they had before. So the advantage of being completely independent is that we decide when it's ready, and I think is going to be ready in April for sure.
Okay. And is all the content in the game yet, or is it all polished right now?
That is one. We are working really hard in the final fight because. So the one thing you have to know about the game is that the game is hard, man. It's really hard. It's the Souls game of the tactical. So you die a lot. But we spent quite a lot of time creating a very fluid gameplay, and very responsive. So when you die, you don't feel like the game is just shitty and it didn't respond to your commands. But we want to be particularly cruel in the final boss. So we are working the final stage right now in the ends and some other pieces, and then we're gonna go back and spend the rest of the months just polishing and polishing and polishing.
Okay. And I think I saw that there was at one point a closed beta of the game.
Yeah, the closed beta is now open. So people can go on Steam and download the game and give some feedback to us. That is an important thing that I keep saying. I think 3 weeks ago, we run this event called Indie Games make it better. So I probably have to give you a bit of background on this. There are two reasons why I came to gaming. One's because selfishly I wanted to create things, feel like, oh yeah, I create games. That sounds super cool. But the second one is that I really want to do something for other people. I really want to, give some nice message to kids. The message that I didn't have when I was a kid. So growing up, I was in Brazil in the 80s was really, really rough for you if you're on anything but, the normative. So we partnership with this entity called It Gets Better. I don't know if you guys know. So It Gets Better is a global charity, and basically what they do is they go to teenagers, normally queer teenagers, LGBTQ teenagers, and say, "Hey, your life is shitty right now. People hate you, or your family doesn't accept you, but things are gonna get better. You're gonna find family. You're gonna, outside your family, you're gonna find friends. You're gonna find a job, and things are gonna improve." And it's something that it really really resonated with me because I would love to have this when I was a kid, and I didn't. So we did this event, and we collected more than $16,000 for this charity, and we continue doing this. So I quite forgot your questions. I don't know. But basically, the idea of creating the game was to help us as a team, but also help others. What was your question again? I actually forgot.
I think we lost track. I think I was asking about the beta.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yeah.
So sorry. And this was the beta. The beta was part of this. Sorry. So we launched the beta in the event. We launched the closed beta a while ago, and in the event we open up the beta now is on Steam.
Okay. Right. So since you mentioned it, how deep are, say, well, you mentioned you partnered up with an LGBT plus charity, so I would expect that those themes might be running through this game.
Yeah, so the story in the game, every single character is a female character. So if you have love stories, they will be a queer story. So Donna goes, the main characters, there are four main characters. So it's Donna, Kuniko, Pan, and Bird. And the reason why we create these three characters to go along with Donna is because we wanted to tell three different stories: motherly love, romantic love, and sisterhood love. And each one of these characters is, one of these love stories for her, and explore, how it is. To develop these feelings for different people and different, motherly love and or sisterhood love and also romantic love. And of course, because of that, there's a lot of, connections with LGBTQ themes. But also the game, funny thing about the story of the game is that it's a tragic comedy. So there's a lot of puns and jokes. But in general, it talks about quite a lot of very heavy topics. It talks about abuse and talks about violence and hate and abortion and many points in the game that they gets very serious. And we love we brought a female writer to write about those things in a kind of proper voice. So yes, the game is LGBTQ, the LGBTQ characters, but it talks about so many other things as well.
Okay. And I suppose another aspect of the story, or the story presentation that we haven't really touched upon, but we've been seeing in the trailer here, is the Interstitials. It looks like they come out of a manga. And I'm wondering, what was the thought process behind these Interstitials here?
That is funny. So in the beginning was just text, and very early on, so each chapter of the game has we write the script, and we have like 7 chapters. In each chapter, the script is around 200 pages. It's a lot of dialogue, which you
Right.
can skip, by the way. So the dialogue is completely skippable. So when we start doing this, it's like, oh shit, this is a lot of dialogue. It's too much. We need to make this a bit more dynamic. And one of the ideas was to create animations for the puppets, where they can express themselves a bit like 8-bit style. But I still felt like there's no. We are talking about such emotional things, and the characters just making different faces. And Noe Pisqueda, who is our concept artist, I was like, oh, we should do cutscenes, and everybody started laughing in my face because we are too small to be able to do cutscenes. And small teams that do cutscenes like 3D or whatever, it looks very stilted and low quality. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And the team's like, oh, I wish we could do that. Not even that we can do. Um, so in one of the discussions that we have, we could do a nice comic book story. And Noe, who is our artist, she showed me immediately got her iPad and start showing me some comic books that she did. And although the style was not exactly the same style of the game, it was so beautiful that it was like this needs to come to the game. And it was funny. It's like, okay, can we afford doing this? Can we afford to tell this story as a comic book? And turns out we cannot, because a colored page is is a lot of work. And it goes back to my thing that I said about it's 30% of work is what you can see, and then I have all the rest that you cannot. So after the first pages, which are gorgeous, beautiful, we just realized that in the pace that we are going, we're probably going to finish the game in 2024. So a decision was made by Noe to say, okay, let's do comic book, but manga-like. So the first pages are colored, everything else is black and white, and the end is colored. So this makes things much easier and faster, but also kept a kind of very specific style that we want to go. We want the game not to age poorly in a year or two, you know what I mean? And I think it was the best decision. Even if you had more time to do everything colored, I find the black and white pages really, really cool, and there's a lot of expression in it. So we are actually thinking of launching with the game a little comic book with all the pages.
It seems to work out fairly well from what I can see here. And we've talked a lot about the visuals, but what about the audio? What sort of soundtrack are you going for here?
Okay, so I have to laugh because the audio was a big surprise. So when we started the game, I said we didn't have an audio person, and I said I really want the game to sound very 90s, very pop 90s. Imagine Whitney Houston. And everybody yeah, let's go for it. And then we started looking for artists that could help us out, and other composers, and nothing was clicking, man. Nothing was clicking, and we tried a lot of different things, and this is not working. And people will bring very 80 beats sounds, or it was very gamey. I know that it's what you expect a game to have gamey thing, but something that people could actually listen divorced from the game. And our marketing guy, Nick, he said, "Oh, I can get a hand. I don't know. I never did anything like this." And I was like, "Dude, just spend a week trying to understand a bit more about the programs and bring me what you can." And he started turning out such awesome tunes, not necessarily 90s, but The tunes are very, very good, and then we start getting lots of praise for the soundtrack, which we didn't expect at all. And now he is unbearable because his ego is just like so high right now, because he thinks he's the next Mozart. But it was a great, you know, surprise. So it's very hard for me to express what the soundtrack is. Is very danceable, I would say. There's a lot of drops and a lot of beats, but it's very non-video gamey, I would say.
Okay. And how many tracks are in?
We are already clocking 50. I think it's gonna be around 60, 65. So it's quite extensive, it's quite long.
Right.
And I actually keep like listening to it when I'm working. I just listen to the soundtrack. It just puts me in the mood.
Okay. And have you settled on a price for the game yet?
Yes, the game's gonna be $15, around £12 in the UK, and around £13 in Europe.
Okay. And in terms of computer builds, is this going to be for Windows only, or will there be versions for the Mac and Linux platforms as well?
So in the launch date, we are aiming for PC, Xbox, both Xbox and Switch. Okay. And we're gonna have a Mac version later on. And I think the Mac version is gonna come with the first DLC. We have 3 DLCs planned. The thing is that there's a lot of things you have to cut in the main story, because it probably doesn't fit with the story, or it just drags, becomes a huge side quest. And it was like, all of these can become nice DLCs themselves. So the game goes to all these 3. We are not super sure about PlayStation yet, because PlayStation is very hard for some reason to reach out, to get, because we want to make sure that we launch the game with some covering from those platforms, which Xbox and Nintendo were like very nice to give us a spot. And PlayStation is something that we're still working on.
Unfortunate, but sometimes these things happen. Any thought to a mobile version of the game?
The game actually started as a mobile game. And we really love the mobile idea, but it became too complex for that. So there is an idea in the team to create a version for mobile. But the thing about we make decisions based on our guts, right? But we have to, if we don't think about the financial, marketing aspects of this, it's going to be our first and last game. So mobile is really hard right now. It's all free to play, and you need a ton of money for marketing and whatever. However, if Grid Force is reasonably successful in consoles and PC, we can leverage some name recognition to create a premium version for mobile. So it depends on the launch of the game in consoles first, and then we see what to do.
Fair enough. And suppose that's my gamut of questions. I'll see if my colleagues here have anything further for you.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I got just about everything I was. Aside from maybe some minutia about the battle system, but I'd rather learn about. It looks like the arena changes more than compared to, for example, Battle Network. But that's about it.
Yeah, you're gonna have also quite a lot of local events that change the arenas. So yeah, that is a bit more dynamic.
Okay. Anything else, Alex?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Right. I actually do have one last question. That is there any multiplayer in the game?
We have local multiplayer, but we don't have online. So any moment in the story, you can just get a second controller, or third, or fourth, and you can play. And when you do that, whoever is playing is going to be controlling the same host of characters. So it's when we are playing here in the team, there's some awesome situations where you get really pissed with your colleagues because they got the character you want to get and they just don't switch. But when you do this, the game automatically adjusts the difficulty. So yeah, it still gets very hard even if you get 4 people playing.
Okay. Is it a dynamic thing? Like, does the game get harder if you have 2 players versus 1 player?
Yeah, it changes on the fly.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose that's it.
Yeah.
So,
and one last thing just to
Go ahead.
say is that even if you finish the story, you can still play the game. The game continue creating procedural things for you to do, so you can continue playing for a long time.
Okay. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here this week. The game looks really interesting, and I think we're all looking forward to playing it when it comes out. I ask you for review copies when that happens. But meantime, the game is Grid Force: Mask of the Goddess. It is currently available for wish listing on Steam, and there is a demo you can download, and it is coming April 2022 at a price of $14.99. Be sure to wish list it today. And yeah, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to tune in for our Sunday reviews. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.
Thank you very much, guys.